And all that's left to say is don't let yourself down by doing all the good work. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the official handover. I'll pass you over to, for the time being, my best men, Tim and Brian. Just wanted to keep speaking. Sorry.
Right, so for the timekeeper, Jamie, go. So, hi everybody, I'm Tim and this is Brian. In keeping with the speed of everything else to date with this wedding, I just want to say a big thank you to the venue. It's been a great day. The bridesmaids look stunning. I know Hilly for a little bit. He's a good lad. Becky, you look beautiful today. Congrats to Mr. and Mrs. Hill. Cheers. Now let's see. Sit down, everybody. Sit down. Thank you. That's it. We're done. That's it. We're done. Only messing, there's no chance I'd let him get away with that. But here are a few niceties to start with. So, I'll have to try and rein in some of my emotions here. My little boy's turned me into a little bit of a softie. But I've basically known Hilly for 35 years, since I was 3 years old. And there have been some incredible memories to look back on, and it's a real honour to stand here today as his best man. I'm just, thanks mate. Real honour. Cheers Hilly, thanks mate. I've said it before, but I could not have picked a better or more loyal friend if I'd lived for 1,000 years. You don't have a bad bone in your body, mate. You're an amazing friend. Roll on the next 35 years and many more. Cheers, Hilly. Jan and Kelly, you two have pretty much been my second parents throughout all those years. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you what an amazing son you have. He's a massive credit to you both. Henry, Sheila, as Hilly's been calling her, you've got a fantastic son-in-law with Hilly, as I'm sure you're aware of. He'd walk through fire to look after his family and make sure that he's been taken care of. He's a really good father and a great family guy. But some of these next bits you'll hear, I'm sure, are well in the past, so don't worry about it. It's just banter. On to Brian.
So for those who don't know me, I'm Brian. I'm the other best man today. Firstly, on a personal level, Hilly, Becky, just like to start by saying how chuffed I am to be one of your best men today. Not just for the free suit, the free meal, or the free bar tonight. It is a free bar tonight, isn't it, Hilly? It's been quite expensive so far, so. Or is that just for me and Tim? Just me and Tim. Okay. But seriously, thrilled to be asked. It means a lot to me, and it's a genuine honour, so thank you both very much. I think I'm safe to say on behalf of everyone that we've had an amazing day so far. Yeah. I'm probably safe to say we're very much looking forward to spending the rest of the evening with the pair of you, so thanks for having us all today. We're really looking forward to spending the rest of the evening. But, ladies and gentlemen, it is worth pointing out that I have another important responsibility today. Yep, keep the self-proclaimed Timmy Champagne Elton in line. Steer the big guy away from the booze. As you can see, I've done a good job. Keep him focused on the job at hand and keep his side of the speech family-friendly. Hilly and Becky made it clear they didn't want that typical sexual innuendo that's become associated with best man speeches. So I made a promise. If I find anything even remotely risque, I'll whip it out immediately. Filthy. In all honesty, although we've really enjoyed working with each other, I think it's safe to say.
Oh yeah, yes we have.
We have had the odd disagreement. So forget who's planning the stag do, who's carrying the rings, who's opening the speech. No, the hottest debate was who gets to tell the Hilly experimenting in the bath story. I won't say too much more, because in the end we decided we were probably crossing a line. But let's just say, at the time, it seemed more than appropriate to be settled by a good old-fashioned thumb war. So I'll hand you over to Tim.
What did he do?
Harrison, you...
Harrison, probably too young. young.
You were a bit too young for that, Harrison, I think, to be fair. We'll tell him later, maybe in about 5 years when you're 18. Just some of my own memories and stories about Hilly, and one or two visual images. So in the early years, as kids, we were only just 100 yards away from each other, and I spent most of my days and weekends at his house, as he had a massive garden, and Jan made amazing jam on toast, and she had a soda stream machine. The two girls, Nicola and Claire, would babysit us on occasion, and it was one of these days we were allowed to watch a certain pop music video, and I don't think he's ever been the same since. So don't panic, mate, he's not around anymore to get you, so don't worry about it. As you can see, he would absolutely poo himself, and he would run around the back of the sofa crying his little eyes out, bless him, every time this video came on. Given how wacko Jacko turned out, he probably had every right to be scared, to be fair, and was a good judge of character. Who would have thought later on he'd be strutting about in the same gear? Stag do picture. If you can see it. Next picture, sorry. So, if you can't see that, that is Lady Godiva. Do not ask me what we were thinking here. It's probably the weirdest thing I've ever done. Although I think Cole would probably disagree with that. But for some reason we decided to jump on our bikes and ride around the whole estate completely naked, just riding around with everything out. Why, mate? What were we doing? It was pretty weird and a bit gay. I think, to be fair, I only had a squirt gun to cover myself. Or was it a bazooka? Not sure. Sticking with the naked theme, I have a feeling where you may have got this from. It was during during one of our sort of sleepovers at Hilly's house, I would regularly bump into Curly on the stairs, go into the toilet, stark bollock naked. I realise now where Curly's likeness to horses came from. You nearly had my eye out with that, Curly. So, continuing again with the naked theme, it's purely accidental, but this is the standout one for me and baffles me today why he did this, and I'm sure Aries' mum was just as overjoyed as well. Aries' mum. We were all very fond of this particular hill, no pun intended. We would regularly ride down this hill at pace on our bikes, but for one particular occasion Hilly decided to make his way down and carried straight on without braking, smashing into the wall. Don't know what he was doing, just did not decide to stop. Smashing into that wall, and you can imagine what came into the contact with his handlebar first. Unfortunately, he smashed his nuts and proceeded to collapse to the floor, bleeding and holding his area, screaming in pain. We could see there's a little bit of blood coming through his jeans, but thankfully there was a woman walking a dog who came to his aid. She started to pull his jeans down and to assess his injuries, and she did seem a bit alarmed. And with his bleeding bits on show and his jeans around his ankles, she proceeded to pick him up and asked if anybody lived nearby. So you can imagine she kind of picked him up with everything on show. Thankfully Aries' house was only 200 yards away, and we all rushed around. I'll never forget the look on Aries' mum's face when she opened the door and she was literally handed Hilly to her to say, "Can you deal with that, please?" And with his little Willie staring in the face, she was like, "Yeah, I'll look after you, no problem." Hilly looked so awkward and embarrassed, it was hilarious and something I will remember until that day I die. What were you doing? Why didn't you just stop? Smash! Thankfully everything was okay and still works alright, as you can see from his two kids he's got today. Sorry, I'm doing my own banter here. So that is a skateboard. This is one for those who remember the incident, but suffice it to say, the poor lad never walked the same again. To be fair, he didn't even walk that well to begin with anyway, but Hilly just finished him off and eased this particular item into his bike path, and he hurtled over the handlebar and spent 2 weeks in hospital. It wasn't long after that he moved away from Weatherby, never to be seen again, except on www.iwasbullied.com. Gavin Adams, for those who remember. So, this is probably one just for me and Hilly, but it tickles me every time I hear this song. I went round one day to see him, and Jan said, yeah, he's just going up, he's upstairs, he's just listening to his music. On my way up, I could hear this song coming from his bedroom, Go West, and I did initially think, it's a little bit unlike him, because I didn't really think he was into his 80s. So I crept my head around the door, and to my enjoyment, I saw him raving into his mirror, singing We Close Our Eyes. I was in stitches, something I'll never forget, and I do remind him about when the song comes on. So maybe we could have a little bit of a rendition there. Let's you what, Claire? It's me, not him. Was it? You sure? Hilly was raving away to this song. Were you, mate? No? You were. Just raving into the mirror. We closed our eyes with Go West. Let me turn that off. That hasn't quite worked. It worked better in the garage the other night when me and Bri were rehearsing. And it's still going. It's still going. It's still going. We close our eyes. Oh, let's take that. Sorry about that. Oh, we're up. How did that one get there? Let me skip by that one. That's just one for the lads. Sorry about that. As you're all aware, he's always loved his football, and most of us played in the same team with him over the years, from kids and into our 30s. Plenty of fond memories there, which is where I'll hand over to Bri to share some with you. So I'll just leave you with an image of this lifelong, passionate and die-hard Arsenal fan who is sat there in an Everton shirt. Thank you. Over to Bri.
So thankfully I avoided much of this. Hilly and I went to rival schools and operated in different social circles. Our bromance was originally initiated at a Leeds United versus Stoke City game, back when we were probably about 8 or 9 years old. Again, a little surprising for a somewhat alleged Arsenal fan. But needless to say, we hit it off from day one. One thing led to another, and in the weeks that followed, he finally took the initiative and invited me round for a sleepover. A tactic he used later in life. Anyway, I'll be honest, I was a little reluctant. We'd only just met. I wasn't really sure what to expect. But he had a Sega Mega Drive and 2 hot older sisters, so I took a chance. And I have to say, from that point onwards, we never looked back. Well, having said that, there was one moment. There was one moment that could have changed things. Again, involving a sleepover at Hilly's house. Only this time, the invite had been extended. In a bid to integrate me into his wider group of friends, Hilly invited me alongside a few of the Deaton Gates boys. There are a few of the Deaton Gates boys in the house tonight. Would you raise your hands? You should be ashamed of yourselves, lads. I was okay with this at the time, naturally apprehensive. I'd heard the stories about them, but decided it'd probably be okay. But I was not prepared for what followed. I'll refrain from naming and shaming at this point, but let's just say some of the Deaton crowd, clearly not quite as experienced as the Crossley Street boys, were keen to spend some time assessing their kissing techniques. One by one, they took centre stage in Hilly's bedroom to showcase their preferred approach. Some using the back of their hands, some using the full-length mirror. Now, I realise this is a family occasion, so I'll spare you some of the gruesome details, but let's just say Rob Denham's approach was concerning on a number of levels. He was only 9 years old, for God's sake. Picture Tim? Oh no, okay. But
still playing music.
I'm appreciating the soundtrack that wasn't rehearsed. But despite such debauchery, I stuck with them, and in the years to come, the two clans put their differences aside and merged into one finely formed team, which still remains fully intact to this day, nearly 30 years on. And I think that's something quite rare, something quite special, and I think in some small way we've Hilly to thanks for this. Reaching across the social divide. So Hilly, well done, mate. So not only did he introduce me to a group of friends for life, but he also played a role in introducing me to the mighty Wetherby Athletic Football Club. It's not nearly loud enough, everybody. The Wetherby Athletic Football. So we played in the same team for probably 6 or 7 years, forming as strong a partnership on the pitch as we had off it. We also formed and choreographed some quite impressive goal celebrations over the years. Which I'm sure went down well with the masses in attendance at 10 a.m. on a cold Sunday morning in the Harrogate District League. But some of you may not be aware that during this period we were managed by one of the UK's finest and most forward-thinking footballing minds. Ladies and gentlemen, Alvin Curly Hill. Yeah, that's right. The only way Curly could ensure his beloved son stayed in the team was to take the reins himself. I'm only kidding. Hilly was a pretty good footballer, a tricky attacking right midfielder who could set up a few and score a few herself. Although in a similar vein to his beloved Arsenal, he didn't fare so well in winter. Often donning winter woolies, extra long cycling shorts, and if my memory serves me right, tights. Which didn't go down well with the masses at Seacroft when we played them away. But let's just say we had some great times, and I would say particularly with Curly at the helm. So it's also down to me to talk a little bit about what Hilly was like at school. He was good at school. We were in many of the same classes. Never really in trouble. Kept his head down, achieved good grades, but there were a couple of standout memories I'd like to share with you today. Firstly, a personal favourite. During a classroom talk about armed services, the teacher asked if anyone had family in the forces. Hilly immediately put his hand in the air, and when prompted, proudly proceeded to tell the class that he had an auntie who was 48. On another fateful day, whilst in the swimming pool lesson, Hilly was asked to get out the pool to engage in a one-on-one demonstration with a particularly attractive swimming instructor. Let's just say things got visibly too much for him. He panicked. He jumped in the pool. To see your friends lose their dignity in such circumstances, genuinely priceless. But despite these minor blips, he made it to university, somewhat surprisingly, chasing his lifelong dream of studying in the glamorous, ladies and gentlemen, location of Stoke. Yeah, there's a few cheers at the back, isn't there? The cheap seats. But again, he did well. I suspect that's down to Rick and Craig carrying him much in the same way Tim and I did. But he must have done something right, because he's gone on to forge a successful career that combines his web design talents with his many personal interests. He's worked for Orange, his phone addiction, Goal.com, his football addiction, Skybet, his gambling addiction, now the NHS, battling his addiction. Ladies and gentlemen, in my humble opinion, he's looking pretty dapper today. Yeah. Only rightly outshone by Becky, who again, I'm sure you'd agree, looks absolutely amazing. Yeah. But he's a good-looking lad, certainly one of the more fashion-conscious amongst us, despite his thumb ring. Come to think of it, Tim, is that a fashion aid, or is that a bit of a... No. We won't go there. Enough of the thumb stories. Lost my place now. He's also, ladies and gentlemen, a bit of a romantic. And maybe it's this romantic nature that's brought us here today. I mean, it certainly wasn't his height or his athletic build. Sorry, mate, it's a bit harsh. I feel that was a bit pointed. But in all seriousness, I'm sure there are many here amongst us who recognise Hilly and Becky were perfect for each other long before they actually got together. Both ventured down separate paths for a while, so it took a little longer than expected. But when Hilly finally took a leap of faith and plucked up the courage to ask Becky and Pisey, to ask Becky out, and Pisey for anything, but to ask Becky out at Pisey and Shona's wedding all those days back in 2013, I'm sure we knew it would end well. And these two don't mess about. New house, new jobs, new baby. And I hear with only a few sleepless nights in between, then here we are today. I like to think it's an appropriate moment to say, we all told you so. But as is customary before such an occasion, it was our responsibility to put on a stag do for Hilly that he would never forget. So a finely formed 17-strong wolf pack descended upon Marbella for a weekend of sun, sea and sausage. Sorry, that's a reference to Jamie's barbecue, nothing else. Now there's only so much I can say about a stag do, but all I will say is there was a genuine first on this one. The stag begging to be taken home at 9 o'clock on the first night. You see the look of him there in a picture, if you can see that far. Now you might think this was a result of us forcing drinks in Hilly's direction, but you'd be wrong. Mr. Self-Destruct decided to hammer home an entire bottle of Rioja to himself shortly before we ventured out. Not a good tactic for a man who had been drinking lager all day by the pool. Anyway, we weren't too sympathetic because at 4 AM the begging was still being ignored. That said, in all honesty, we're just glad he didn't attempt the journey home himself. Hey, Pisey. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Pisey provided the standout memory of the trip. To set a bit of context, we were staying in a villa that was a little off the beaten track. As we ventured home at the end of the first night... Bit early, Tim. Beat the punchline. But dispersing into taxis, Pisey, unbeknownst to the rest of the group, had ventured off to find food and was left behind. Turned away by each and every taxi driver he approached, there was only one thing he could do: issue a cry for help to his fellow stags via our WhatsApp group. A valuable communication tool in such circumstances. That said, it's a little reliant on two things: clear communication and a receptive audience. Here's a little extract just to let you know how that played out in real time. So to explain, there's some well-placed ducks. So this is Pies, effing, twacking one, tacking Tad your soul, tacking crits. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Graham, Hilly's brother-in-law. The father of the group suggested he agrees with what Pisey has said. Pisey, still remaining confident that he's supported by his fellow men, keep the FM door open, having to walk one kiki. However, ladies and gentlemen, Pisey displayed Bear Grylls-like survival skills and somehow made his way home, only to find the villa gate locked and no one conscious enough to hear the doorbell ringing. Too drunk to climb over the villa walls, Pisey had to spend the rest of the night slumped against the gate. I'd be lying if I said he was in a good mood the next day, but I'm sure he sees the funny side now. Anyway, we had a great time, a really strong team, and I'm sure we all take away really fond memories. So, and Graham, top work for such a good response. And believe, Hilly, Tim's got a little present on behalf of the both of us and the rest of the stags to hopefully give you something to think about.
There you go, mate. Something to remember the old stag, mate. There you go. Little present for you, fella. Worth opening, it's quite funny, actually. Oh, is it my go now? Right, here we go. So yeah, all jokes aside, Becky, thank you for giving Hilly everything he's always wanted and making him really happy. Thank you. He's always happy now. Thank you, Becky. Today has been a real honour. As I said before, it's a pleasure to stand here as your best man alongside Brian. So congratulations to you both, and I wish you and your family all the best for the future.
Yeah, and once again from me, Hilly, Becky, I feel immensely proud to be one of your best men today. Genuinely couldn't be happier for the two of you. Two positive, fun-loving people, I'd say, with a genuine lust for life. I speak on behalf of both Lindsay and I when we say we're really looking forward to spending many happy years with you, Ruby and Ollie, in the years ahead. So that's enough from the both of us. I think all that remains to say is, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding and join us in a toast to Mr. and Mrs. Hill. You can eat.